Hello, my friends. Today is an update on the new sourdough starter, Vincent Van Dough. I know it's been a bit, and as you've seen in the beginning of the video here, that I'm also starting on a second round of bone broth, so that I'll be pressure canning here lately. You'll have to forgive the lighting in here, as we've got basically a thunderstorm moving in, and everything is kind of off whack around here. So as I get back to this new starter, we're on day 17, and I'm actually quite amazed. I have been trying to do starter for about 2 years now. I've had some success, some not so success, and some that was mediocre. But this one has blown my mind. With the previous videos that I've given you the ratios, the flour mixture, the water, and all of that, and I understand that some starters don't work for all. I mean, it's like everything in life. What works for one might not work for another. But for me, this has actually been working, and I've been really impressed. As you can see, all the good bubbles in here. This is, I mean, it's got a decent smell to it. The bubbling effects, I don't know if you see without trying to tip this, but you can see the air pockets in here. Now, this one here is about to decline on its rise, and I'll have to feed this soon, but I have been really amazed, and I am going to touch up on a few things that I've learned about sourdough that maybe some might not know, and things have never been covered over it. So I will meet you in just a minute to describe all this to you. Hello, my family. Okay, so I have been going over these last quite a few days about sourdough starter, and again, I've been using, and I recently, thank you to my husband, I actually got the tartan bread book. I actually love this book. I'm not promoting it. I'm not getting any promotions from it. I did this on my own because I was really interested in learning more about my sourdough. Why am I so particular about sourdough? To me, this is a valuable item to have in your home. We have gone through shortages for the last 2 years. Many of you noticed that it was even hard to get commercial yeast. This is something that I can feed every day, or I can put in my refrigerator, feed every week, and I can have yeast in a hand always. It has many health benefits as to easier on your digestive system because it is a fermented yeast. It's just, to me, an all-around better type of source to use for bread making, pizza crust, all of these, English muffins. There is so many things you can do with sourdough starter. You can make your pancakes with it. It's just so much healthier for you. So what I have learned, I baked my first bread with Vincent, and I will tell you, so far I was actually pleased. I actually combined Lazarus and Vincent because I didn't have enough, which I needed to bulk. The beginning stages, where a lot of these recipes will give you ingredients or ratios to start what's called a leaven. The leaven, all that is to help bulk up your sourdough so that you can use it towards your recipe. But there's where the biggest key came from that I was not aware. I didn't catch it for a while until recently. I would go ahead and feed my sourdough, say, I'll give you an example, 8 o'clock at night. So I would think, okay, the next day. Now, sometimes we get busy. We don't get it 12 hours later at 8 a.m. Your sourdough came to its peak, and then it dropped, and then we go ahead and we'll start baking our bread and start making our recipes. There's the problem. What I have learned in the leaven, when it says to allow your sourdough starter or your leaven to sit, feed it and sit for 8 hours, that would mean at 8 p.m. you would go ahead and feed your starter, and by 8 a.m. your starter should be at its highest peak. It is at this highest peak is when you'll hear about float test. You'll take a bit of your sourdough starter, pour it in water, or dump it in water, or drip it in water, and if it rises to the top, it's ready to bake bread. It's that highest peak point. The same with making your bread. That leaven, when you go to measure out for your bread making, is at its highest peak point, not when it starts to deflate. What I've learned when I've grabbed it when it was starting to deflate was, yes, my bread rose, but not to its highest point. It started to be, it had an amazing flavor. It had the bubbles. It had the air pockets, beautiful crumb, but it was kind of dense. The reason it was dense is I did not take my starter, my leaven, at that peak point. I waited till it started deflating. It started making sense to me. The other part is the cook time. We tend to see our sourdough get dark and we panic and think, oh my gosh, I can't let this go any longer. It's not necessarily true. Most sourdough is dark. When you don't let it get to the point where it says to, now granted, you don't want it to burn, but you do want a dark point to it, because if you don't, you're not fully cooking that bread the way it should be, and you're going to have a raw dough. These were the two main factors in my sourdough that it took me 2 years to realize what I was doing wrong. But yet it's not mentioned too much on YouTube or anywhere else. So I'm here to mention it to you. And I'm hoping this helps you with more success. As I learn more from the Tartan book, as I start going into other recipes, which I am excited about this. I love sourdough. I love the flavor of it. I love the benefits from it. My husband, he was diagnosed with diabetes, and so we had started changing our lifestyle into a low carb. But prices are getting expensive, and in order for me to help him, I am veering into the regular carb foods, only with limitations. Now, honestly, I know if you've seen through my other videos, I have lost a tremendous amount of weight, and I'm so proud of myself for that. I went from 211 to 176, and getting back into regular breads and pastas kind of scares me a bit. So me using sourdough with limitations of how much I eat it is a little bit more comfortable to me, because again, like I said, it is one food item that's easier to digest, and it has, with the combination of bread flour and wheat, it has good fiber. So I am learning to get back into my own regular carb stuff, again with limitations, but I choose to do the sourdough. So I just happen to love the flavor of it as well. But I still had tweaks to do. Now my last bread, I'm not going to waste it. It is a bit dense, and it's okay for me. But I would like to improve. So I'm hoping these videos are going to help you improve, or to help you understand, why didn't my bread do this, or why didn't I get this out of it? Number 2, not every sourdough starter does exactly what everybody else does. Such as 17 days ago when I started this with you, if yours did not start rising within 6 to 8 hours, or even 12 hours, and I'm getting to that point, say yours didn't start within 6 to 8 hours like mine did, it's okay. There are many factors that can create that. You've got weather situations, which is your area. Do you have a lot of humidity? Are you in a colder atmosphere? These can all affect how well your starter does. Don't dump it. Honestly, if you're starting to see just even a fraction of bubbles, don't dump it. It's alive. It's just taking its sweet time. Some starters will do that. It just takes time. So just be patient. This is your baby. Take care of it. Appreciate every little thing that it does. And if you can improve, here's an area for me. I started this when we ended up with an early 1 month first frost. That totally blew my mind. my home, I use wood heat, so it stays cooler. And so it took about 12 hours for my starter to even start rising. So I started finding ways, what else could I do? And a crazy situation that I have is I grow my vegetables in the spring with a grow light and a heat mat. So I took that crazy idea with the heat mat with the temperature gauge, set it for 77 degrees, put my starters on top of it, and it improved it. It needed that extra heat source. So you can use your top of your refrigerator, a hot water tank, or you can put it in your oven if you're blessed enough to have one with a light, and the light itself will heat it up enough for your sourdough starter. There are many situations that can create your starter to grow slower. Don't give up on it. Just be patient. Many of us want to be able to start this right away, and I have been in the same shoes. However, I've created unsuccessful loaves of bread, and personally, I'd rather take my time than throw out my ingredients, because frankly, it's getting expensive to do that. And so the same factor with my husband's bread, he has to have a certain type. So that is, just for his bread alone, is about $7 for a very small loaf. And with us writing this together, I chose to go in this direction with sourdough so that he can have what he needs without both of us consuming it at the same time. So I started doing these videos because I wanted to help others succeed, to understand more about their sourdough. I will be doing later videos on starting your first bread or helping you with key factors in making your sourdough, what you need to do, the turning, the pulling. I mean, there's a lot of work to sourdough, but so much worth it. In my eyes, it is very much worth it. And I'm hoping you're really enjoying our videos. If you do, please like, subscribe, and share these videos. I appreciate you immensely. For those who have subscribed, bless you very much, and I thank you and hope that you're learning something from us. Until then, much love for Parton's Heritage Homestead.